We have a major institution providing the bull case for Zcash on CNBC, which is a pretty incredible move coming from where Zcash was even just a couple months ago, which was relative obscurity. And so I want to explain a little bit about why we're seeing this, and also what this could mean for Zcash over the next coming days, weeks, months, years, what its main kind of benefits could be, and what some major weaknesses could potentially be in kind of Zcash's bull case. So let's go ahead and we will check it on out. First off, taking a look at the crypto bubbles, we can see Zcash is actually down 14% on the day, which is kind of interesting. But if we look at the week, also down 24, but the month up over 2x. And now if we go ahead and we look at the year, over 1,000%. And so Zcash has been moving just an absolutely insane amount over the past year, really kind of catching fire on this whole privacy, quantum security type of thing. And so I want to talk a little bit about, just what is that? Why is it important? Why do people find it valuable? And then we're also going to hear from the VanEck CEO as to why he thinks other people are finding the value here, and where much of the money flow is actually coming from in Zcash. So first off, we can take a look at the price here. It's at $500. If we go look over the past, let's just call it the year, you could see it was down at $40, $50, and then it's gone all the way, peaking at up over, what is that? Almost $700, $698. Now down here retracing to about $509. But if you look, you'll be able to see that you can essentially, well, let's go back to a little bit further, or a little bit longer time frame here. You'll be able to see we continue to see kind of higher highs and higher lows. It does look like this was maybe only just slightly a higher high. We did actually see prices over $700 in terms of the highs. We haven't actually closed over $700 though, to be clear. Now you'll see here continues to do quite well. If you are looking to get into Zcash, maybe this is a good time to be getting in, because it is actually falling right on kind of this trend line. It has been following all the way up. So if you're not already in, potentially could be a good place to start. But again, it is a difficult market. It is a very, very volatile market. So you do just need to understand that this could be a very, very risky bet, even though Zcash has done so well over the recent past. Now you'll see here still about $2.5 billion of volume flowing through Zcash every single day, which is pretty impressive. We also do have about an $8.3 billion market cap. And so this is something where, it's starting to catch some steam, but it's still a very, very small project here. Now what we can see here for Zcash, which is pretty interesting, is you can see that there's a lot of people who are essentially kind of betting on the quantum resistance and institutional accumulation driving Zcash gains. We also have some potential early Bitcoin whales moving into Zcash as well. We'll talk about that also. Now you can see here Zcash is a decentralized cryptocurrency focused on privacy and anonymity. It uses Zcash zero knowledge proof technology. For those of you who don't know what that is, basically it means that you can verify transactions without revealing any sensitive information about those transactions. So you can still keep kind of the foundational structure and validity of a blockchain without actually having to look at what exactly you're sending, who you're sending it to, all of that type of stuff. Which, for those of you who are familiar with Bitcoin, that's exactly what Bitcoin is, right? If I send a transaction to somebody, everybody knows how much I just sent, who I sent it to, when I sent it, all of that type of stuff. And so Zcash does help with a lot of that, and it's more of like a privacy coin. It also does have some quantum resistant capabilities within it as well, which is why it's starting to catch a little bit of some steam here. Now, in this video that we're going to be watching here in 1 second, we can see VanEck. He's essentially kind of giving the bull case for Zcash. I'm not exactly sure what the kind of prior leading up question was here, but essentially he's trying to explain and defend why Zcash is actually is actually finding some value here within kind of the overall crypto space, and who is actually looking for it. So we'll go on ahead. We'll let Jan VanEck talk to us about Zcash and its comparison to Bitcoin.
Sort of one of the fundamentals. Now, there's something else going on within the Bitcoin community that kind of non-crypto people need to know about. And that is, ultimately, VanEck has been around before Bitcoin. We will walk away from Bitcoin if we think the thesis is fundamentally broken. We don't right now. But you always have to look at the underlying technology. And the Bitcoin community has been asking itself about, is there enough encryption in Bitcoin? Because quantum computing is coming. And then secondly, is there enough privacy in Bitcoin? And so a lot of Bitcoin OGs or maxis have been looking at Zcash. And Zcash,
what's that?
Zcash is a token It's sort of related to Bitcoin with a lot more privacy. Because the kind of garbage that we got about Bitcoin 4 years ago is it's like used for all bad illicit behavior. But now everyone kind of realizes when you move money around on the Bitcoin blockchain, you can see it. You can see it move from one wallet to another. And a lot of people are looking for more privacy.
So that's essentially kind of an overview of why people are looking at Zcash, what maybe some of the concerns are with Bitcoin specifically, as we have heard kind of rotating threat. And this was something that really kind of hit hard when AI first came out, as they're like, well, with AI and quantum computing, especially Google, when they had their Willow quantum chip that they developed, there was a lot of like kind of slight panic around, oh, well, what does this mean for Bitcoin? And so we can see that, you know, there's some of that like Zcash is capturing on, right? There is concern about, you know, somebody kind of breaking the Bitcoin, encryption layer and all of this type of stuff. And maybe that, you know, kind of melts Bitcoin down and people lose everything overnight, essentially. But one thing that Van Eck is kind of referring to here is they don't see that as kind of an immediate concern. And one thing that we have to understand as well, because we have seen this in the past, both with Bitcoin as well as several other different crypto protocols, is they can evolve and they can change over time, right? They can fork so they could have privacy, resistance built in. They could adopt ZK snarks. They could adopt, some other forms of like quantum resistant, kind of hashing and a lot of this other type of stuff that these other cryptos have. So just because Bitcoin doesn't have it right now doesn't mean it can't ever have it in the future. So that's the really important thing to understand. And I think that's maybe possibly part of the bear case for Zcash is, yes, Zcash is picking up a lot of steam and a lot of, kind of interest right now because it has and it offers all of these things. But, Bitcoin can always just adapt, and then that obviously changes overnight for a lot of people. So it'll be very, very interesting to see kind of how this ends up going along. In the meantime, though, I don't really expect Bitcoin to be proactive with this, to be completely honest. I think we'll have to see quantum computing kind of make some further gains there before we see people kind of seriously start talking about it. In that time, I do think Zcash has a massive, massive opportunity to kind of ride the narrative up here and actually have a lot of upside here for Zcash. So that's what I'm going to be looking at very closely with Zcash, particularly right now in kind of a fearful market. If you are very, very bullish on kind of the Zcash thesis, this could be an interesting time to get in. But of course, it has gone up massively over the past year. So there is a little bit of that kind of risk given that it has gone up so much so recently. But we are in a bit of a downtrend right now, which does kind of reduce some of that risk slightly. Now, overall, if you are interested in getting Zcash, there's a whole bunch of different places you can do it. We also do have those links in the description below where you can go get signed up, get a little bit of some bonuses for getting signed up as well, so you can buy some more Zcash or whatever else you might be interested in. I do still think that there is definitely a ways to go. If we go back and we take a look at the coin market cap, you will see here Zcash is the number 14 crypto here. It does have an $8.29 billion market cap, and that does mean, to catch up to something like Ethereum or even something like Bitcoin, it has a much, much further level to go. You can see here there are only 21 million Zcash. So quite literally dollar for dollar, if this were to catch up to Bitcoin, Zcash would be about, $80,000 at that point. So there's definitely some major upside here for Zcash if we do see something like that going. I personally obviously don't think it's going to catch up to Bitcoin, but I do think, maybe we see it do something like a Cardano or a Litecoin or things like that, providing some upside for it still. And then of course, if we see something fundamentally change and perhaps Bitcoin's hashing algorithm gets broken and it doesn't do a hard fork and doing all this type of stuff, then maybe there provides an opening where we see something like Zcash really do well. So overall, that is kind of what we have today for Zcash. Hopefully you found it interesting and helpful. If you did, of course, you know what to do. Really appreciate all of the support, especially in the market, kind of the way that it is right now. All of the support that you provide does very, very much help. So really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, drop those in the comment section. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.